right, Kelly. Today we've got Kelly Keegan on the show. Welcome to the Culture and People Cast.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. In a few sentences, would you tell us who you are and what you do?
Yes. So my name is Kelly Keegan. I am the VP of People at Built-in. I help people, I help companies, and I help people essentially become their best selves, if I were to sum it up as a whole. And at Built-in, I oversee our people and talent functions.
Yes. Awesome. And you guys are doing great work in Chicago and beyond.
Yeah, so we are in 9 markets right now, soon to be at over 50 by the end of the year, really supporting this whole transition to remote work and helping connect individuals to companies where they could be their best selves or align with their values and really do great work.
Yes. Tell us what Built-in does.
Yes, so we are a double-sided marketplace. We're essentially a recruitment marketing platform where you can go, if you're an individual, to find the top tech companies that are hiring and understand what it's like to work for them, what their values are, and how that aligns with what you're doing. And for our customers, which are the top tech companies all over the US, we get to showcase their employer brands and get to tell their story. So it's a great partnership. It's a great opportunity for people to be aligned with a company. That's essentially what everybody is looking for always, but especially right now, of like, where can I go where I'm aligned with what they're doing? You know, they're offering all of the benefits that I'm looking for that just allow me to be my best self, show up and do really great work and just be really passionate about that.
I love that. And Kelly, I know you've been doing this work around culture and people for a while and have a lot of expertise in sort of that hyper growth, right? Mm-hmm. Getting ready to prepare for that growth, finding the right people, and then getting them aligned for execution. But what's your favorite thing about doing this type of work?
Oh, that's a great question. There are so many things. I mean, ultimately, I would say it's like this moment where you see an individual realize like, wow, all of this is possible. I'm achieving things that I didn't know that I could do or that I was afraid to do. And you just see that fulfillment in their eyes and that like belief and confidence that they've found in themselves. And everybody has that, right? Like everybody's working cohesively together. And I just get to sit back and be like, this is so cool that this is my job.
Isn't it though, right? And when we do it really well, people don't even know that we did anything, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm going for.
Yes, we just created the environment, gave all the tools. I always compare it to like the consigliere in the mob. That's like the guy behind the guy who's like whispering in their ear and nobody knows that like he's pulling a lot of the strings. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm hearing, because I'm curious, you and I had a good conversation about your staff, but in general, I'm hearing just engagement is a challenge right now. What are your thoughts?
I think, you know, it's interesting. I think engagement is a number and a metric and something that we're always trying to measure for our workforce and generally as a whole in like the HR and people field. Yeah. I think what's really difficult right now is trying to correlate, is it related to your company or the work that you're doing, or is it related to just this scenario that we're living in where COVID exists, people are limited from like going out, people are forced to work remotely. There's all these scenarios where things are totally out of our control and just our human nature is want to control things. So I think, you know, as a company and as a people leader, trying to dissect like what actually is a result of like our company and what we're doing and how we can improve and what is just really like outside of our control. I think that's really, really challenging right now with engagement.
Yeah. And when we think about what's outside of our control, meaning it's not to do with the work, it's not to do with the company. So technically we don't have direct control over that. And there's also this push this year, awesome, to talk more about the whole person and this mental health and humanity. So have you found that shift is taking place regardless?
Yeah, I feel really fortunate that for, you know, the last few years of my career, and I've definitely focused and promoted on developing the whole human. It's always been innate in what I do as an individual. But I would say in the work that I'm doing and producing, at least for the last 5 or 6 years, I've made sure to say like, we are focusing on developing the whole human. We are hiring for the whole human. It's not just who you are in your job, in your seat, but like what else is going on behind the scenes. And so at Built-in, we've been really really lucky that that's always been there and the things that we're doing and the programs that we're creating. So that was a little bit easier to flex. I think what we're seeing now is just needing to ramp our managers to understand all of those complexities around how do you personalize your approach for each individual on your team? How are you dissecting like what's actually going on behind the scenes? I think I spend a lot of time doing personal development work, and I have a coach and a therapist and like all these outlets and resources to help me understand what's going on. Yeah. But for so many people out there, they don't have that. And so they might not even be aware of like understanding what's going on, like where they're actually frustrated. And so to try to teach managers how to do that is just, it's challenging. It's really, really hard right now. And I think we're seeing that it's also okay for people to admit that they don't have the answers, but we just don't want to do that as humans. We always want to know what the answers are.
I know. And I love that. I think there's so much to be said. By the way, I think the world would be a better place if we all had coaches and therapists. I have both.
I firmly believe that. I've said that many times before.
But we know that that's not always true. I was just coaching a group of founders in an accelerator the other day. So there's, like 25, 30 people in there, and less than 3% said they had ever used a coach. And less than that had used a therapist. Right. But that's why 30% of startups fail because of founder wellness and 65% fail because of co-founder conflict, because we aren't caring for ourselves in the own journey. So the managers have that responsibility. But I want to tie this back to what you're talking about with the managers having to, in my words, sort of reframe, right? We were player coaches before. Now we're having to wear that coach hat far more often than we were before. Mm-hmm. So what is some tactical advice that you would have as somebody who works with these leaders every day? What could they do tomorrow, or even a peer-to-peer? What can we do to start approaching each other as whole humans in the workplace?
Yeah, I think, leading to what I just said around like, we always want to have the answers. I think a really effective coach, and whether that's like your full-time job as a coach or just as an individual and a leader, is to ask a lot of questions. Like my greatest advice, which is not top secret, but like everybody should know, is that like your job as a leader, as a coach, is not to give your people the answer. It is not to always have all of the solutions. It is helping them dissect what is going on, like where they're frustrated, and allowing them to feel empowered to come up with suggestions on their own. So it's asking, like, the most tactical thing I could say is like, before you hop into like problem solving, is to ask 3 follow-up questions, right? Like really truly listen. Somebody's presenting a problem. Oftentimes they're presenting 2 or 3. So to start off and be like, I'm hearing you highlighting this situation and also this situation. If we were to focus on just one right now, what feels the most pressing? And like allow them to choose. And in that time, they're, and they're like subconscious, unconscious, both probably. They're like, oh, I didn't even realize there were 2 different things going on here. Great, let's solve one. And then asking additional questions after that of like, what ideas have you come up with so far? Like, have you been in a situation like this? Is this a common theme? Like, what, if this problem didn't exist, what would that enable you to do?
Oh, I love that one. Yeah, I think you're right. I think we just have to get curious, right? When we ask those questions, again, the light bulbs start to go off in their head, and we are developing trust, right? They're the psychological safety of, I don't have all the answers, but you did. I know for me, when I became a parent and I started to learn maybe about different approaches as a parent, instead of like giving them all the answers when they were 3 and they say like, oh, how does the moon work? Instead of like giving them an answer saying, I wonder, or what do you think? Mm-hmm. And allowing even the craziest answer, like, well, I think the moon follows me wherever I go, to be the thing that they think. And like that our jobs, I'm not comparing our employees to children at all. I'm just saying sometimes when we practice, right? And this is new for leaders. So if you are new to this as a leader, guys, and you're listening to Kelly and I talk, just have faith that like, if you make it more of a habit and a rhythm, you're going to get better at it. It's going to be more natural for you. Anytime we try on a new skill or we practice a new approach and anything, it might feel clunky. and that's okay. You have to keep at it though. Your people deserve it, right? They're worth it.
Yeah, but also, I mean, you say like you're not comparing employees to children, and like that's right in the sense that they are not like, you know, adolescents who don't have a fully formed brain and all of that. But there's actually a really interesting dynamic that exists between employees and managers and like children and parents. And oftentimes, like if you think about it, a child is looking to their parents for safety, for answers, for resolution, etc. Your employees are doing the same thing, especially you're seeing during COVID, like employees are leaning to their managers for trust. You need to have that trust there. You're looking for answers and for guidance. It's not dissimilar to that same sort of parent and child relationship. And it's also just as complex. It's just as complex and just as difficult. And that is totally okay to admit.
Yes, I agree. It's just as complex. I tell you, like, I think I posted just this week on LinkedIn. Like, I feel like right now I'm doing 4 of the hardest jobs I've ever done: entrepreneurship, mama, wife, and leader, right? All at the same time. I'm like, what am I doing? You know, it does feel very overwhelming sometimes. No, this has been so great. And Kelly, we've had such a meaningful conversation. We didn't get to our last 2 questions. So here's what I'll do. We'll talk about that, and we'll make sure in the show notes that we will put who are the people that you might suggest that we watch that are doing good work in the ring around people and culture, and also your favorite resources. So we'll include that in the show notes. But I thank you for your time. This is such a rich conversation, and I can't wait for people to listen.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll add in one other thing related to like asking the questions.
Please do.
Simply saying, what would be helpful for me to do right now?
Right. What would you like me to do? How can I best support you? Ask for their input. And this is the hard part. It's individualized. So one person might say one thing, they want more of you. One person might want less of you. That's leadership, right? We just sort of have to expect that they do deserve individualized care and feeding, for lack of a better phrase.
Yes.
Right? So thank you so much, Kelly. Sending everybody peace and progress.
Yeah.